okay. They're still pretty strong in that bottom lane, but if you get all in, Vanda on this Thresh we've seen in days gone by has punished you very severely.
Vanda used to be called Vanda Life for at least a split. For at least a split. Going all the way back to his Roccat days where he arguably overtook Gosu Pepper as one of the best Threshers in Europe, but now that is a long time removed, and Vanda's going to have to step up with Vitality to help them out. It's a Gragas Syndra for UOL.
And of course, this does have the ability to flex into the jungle here. We don't see a whole lot of jungle Gragas, a game here and there, but the important thing here is this is UOL saying, okay, we will win at least one of our lanes in phase 1 here, whereas Vitality, they need to pick up an AD carry or they risk getting poked down heavily in lane by this Caitlyn. That's why they go for the Twitch, something that maybe can't quite live up to the Caitlyn in lane, but when you look at scaling potential all in with the Thresh, if a hook lands, Twitch is one of the best champions at punishing.
Oh, it's going to be terrifying though. Unicorn, Samux and Hilly, they had a very surprising spring split. They kept showing up against very strong duo lanes, very rarely got very heavily punished, and even in phase 2, Vitality decide to ban the Rakan. So that's a little bit of a shock. Normally we don't see that in this order.
Well, looking at reasons why you might ban Rakan out, we saw earlier how good in lane his ability to get on top of targets and actually disrupt skirmishes. I wonder whether that's an attempt here that denying the all-in potential by a Rakan knockup or something like that. Vitality just don't want that possibility to come out. That might be one reason that we're seeing that. But Unicorns still staying focused now towards the mid lane. The Syndra, of course, already locked in for them. Away goes that Lucian, typically picked into Orianna. Fizz still available. Echo we've seen fall off in the recent patches, but is still a good matchup into that Syndra specifically.
It is indeed, and I'd like to see Nukeduck back on an assassin. Didn't see too many of them throughout the course of the spring split, and hell, the name Nuke is in his name. Like somebody that can blow something up. Last two bans is going to be the Tahm Kench and the Galio. So Vizichachi and Cabo Shard. Two guys with a lot of depth to them, but come on, carry v carry, make this exciting.
You can flex Fizz here quite effectively. Fizz can play into Gragas in the top lane quite well, and it's a good matchup into Syndra. One that Nukeduck should be very comfortable with. So this would be one pick. However, Nukeduck, the last few games of Vitality in the spring split, we saw Echo performances come out from Nukeduck that were insane. It was the best Vitality we were really starting to see. Wasn't enough to save their split. But again, a comfort pick comes out. Vitality maybe looking to set up for 1-3-1. That's what Yamato Cannon did very well with Splice.
And I'm glad you mentioned that because, of course, the end of spring when the pressure was off Vitality, they played their best. They've got an all-European roster now to start off summer, new coach, and we'll see how well they play. Rounding out Unicorns of the Love team composition, it is Shen and Braum, so we know that's a Gragas jungle.
It's in line with the Rakan, the Tahm Kench that was banned away, something that can play protective now. Alongside this, Caitlyn has a fair amount of dominance in lane, but where Vitality go next surely has to be lane strength. Kled would be one option. Does eventually start winning trades against the Shen, can have a lot of presence. So Vitality, you would be excused for thinking that with yellow overlays and a 1-3-1 setup, we were watching Splice from 2016 summer, but this is Vitality with Yamato Cannon. I'm excited to see how this team composition can run up against the second place team from spring.
Absolutely. Unicorns team comp has the option to be very, very reactive, and the Unicorns are coming back to the European stage after a little over a week in Korea, spending a lot of time with the Rocks Tigers and playing solo queue. Sheepy and Yamato will be shaking hands once again. This time, however, Vitality, new org, new players. How well have they prepared? How much practice have they secured? Because they're coming up against the same 5 Unicorns who, as you said, took second.
And a Unicorns lineup that has some of their real big ticket picks from spring. The Shen for Chachi, the Caitlyn. This is a very solid draft out of the Unicorns for their style around team fighting later into the game. So Vitality, they're going to have their wits about them if they're going to control all 3 lanes of this map.
Yeah, and of course Vitality with their Kled, the Thresh, the Echo, the Elise, those are sort of playmaking champions. Great in skirmishes, great if they can get that 1-3-1 down. You guys know what to do. Jump onto Twitter, and if you support the Love Hurts crew, hashtag UOL win. And of course, if you think the Bees will start the split with a sting, hashtag VIT win. Ladies and gentlemen, it's the summer split. Unicorns taking on Vitality.
Gonna have to see Whether the Weedle of Vitality is turned into the Kakuna into B-Drill now, or whether it's not quite going to be enough, need a little bit more time hibernating. But I think there are higher expectations on Vitality here, but it's a tough task. Unicorns have looked so good this whole split.
Yeah, and I think just to be the caveat, and not to start on a Debbie Downer, but this is a team that has been struggling for a while. So for Vitality, the all-European roster, the new coaching staff, let's see what they can do. But my excitement is definitely a little bit more around this UOL squad. We talked about how it's the same 5 players. Stress, this is the first time in 2.5 years that the Unicorns of Love have gone from one split to another with the same starting 5. The only other time that happened was spring to summer in their debut. Nuke Duck gets tagged, but goes to phase dive. This should get him to safety.
Yeah, he's okay here.
3 seconds for the next phase dive. Forces the flash. Nuke Duck counting down the queue until Hilly could fire again.
Respect just in case Xerxes body slam flashed him. It wasn't super likely, but Nuke Duck playing, knowing he has teleport in lane. He will now sacrifice a little bit of lane presence. Of course, it's only post 6 that this Echo really has the effect against Syndra, so it shouldn't be too damning unless Xerxes gets to mid lane before that flash is back available.
Damn, as if Echo into Syndra wasn't difficult enough.
In the early game, yeah.
Now you've got to deal with not having flash. And I'm glad you mentioned Xerxes. He's got that Gragas. Started to pick that one up towards the end of the spring split. He and Vizicachi had phenomenal performances. Vizicachi ended up going MVP of spring. Undoubtedly the best top laner we had.
Oh, yeah.
And Xerxes blew everyone away with consistent performance and growth, earning that Rookie of the Split title.
He was putting up massive numbers and great performances as well, and you look at this first game of the split, I look at a Gragas and I say that's exactly what Xerxes likes to do, is he can play the engaged champion, he can determine when the Unicorns go aggressive, and then Chachi, he's going to try and control the side lane. Difficult against Kled, but then bring him into team fights. Get onto Samex with the Stand United, and again, tip the numbers in Unicorn's favor. So Vitality have given Unicorn some very comfortable picks for the opening game for them this split.
Yeah, absolutely. Exile's going to use that Force of Will. Dark Sphere and Nuke Duck just gets obliterated his HP. It's a level 1 versus level 2, of course, and Nuke Duck's just going to have to farm up under the tower.
Yeah, he's going to sacrifice a little bit, but Time Winder will help him out when he decides to use it. Obviously, after level 2, he took phase dive first to jump over the wall. So now he should be okay, and that's where the TP we were talking about comes into play.
Ooh, look at this. Death Sentence down onto Hilly. Vander and Steelback got themselves some good early damage.
And there's a difference here between that trade and a lot of the trades we were seeing in yesterday's 2v2s, where the Thresh Hook would land and suddenly they'd trade evenly. Samex didn't have too much of an opportunity to return fire onto Vander or Steelback, and that's going to be an interesting thing that we look at when we go further on in this lane. Hylissang forced to use a potion already. We do have a Doran's Blade on Samex, so it means if they're not dictating the trades in this bottom lane, that's where the Doran's Shield sustain will actually outweigh the added damage threat the Blade brings.
Yeah, going to be interesting to see how it progresses, of course. These scaling ADCs with Doran's Blade working in their favor. Bear Trap on a rope there for Cabochard. Just getting some trading down. But I did like seeing Steelback and Vander working together. Steelback, one of the most hyped AD carries from last year. Transitions to Vitality, and unfortunately had a plethora of supports at his side. So he wasn't really set up for success, right? But we still know the ability. We know the high highs that Steelback can reach. Now let's see if a more consistent bottom lane with Vander helps him out.
And I look at the support pool in Europe, and if I'm an AD carry, I'm saying I want Vander next to me, because Mithi, he's on G2, but if there's a guy that is at least second best here, Vander at the end of 2016 was putting up big performances for H2K, so I think this is a big steal from Vitality to pick him up off the failed Schalke roster that were aiming to get into the LCS.
Yeah, the amount of experience you're talking about, 193 LCS games, semi-finalist last year. Here's another Death Sentence catching out Hylissang, pulling him backwards. A lot of minions being fought into, though, as we jump to the mid. No flasher. Nuke Duck Xerxes sets up a play. But the parallel convergence dissuades the engage. And there we go. Love Hurts ramping up the volume here in Berlin. There's Vitality in UOL. They just keep trading back and forth, but nobody's cracking yet.
Yeah, they were trying to capitalize on the fact that Nuke Duck had just TP'd back into lane, so trying to double down, no flash, no TP. Maybe we can put him super far behind in the lane, but it wasn't quite enough. Nuke Duck maintained his health for a lot of that. Parallel conversions came down and he was easily able to get out. But look, Unicorns didn't expend anything but time for it either. Xerxes didn't flash in. He has the opportunity to do that again in the next couple of seconds, but Nukeduck doesn't really have too long left on that flash cooldown. No,
and he's going to have access to the chrono break shortly as well. So another get out of jail free card for Nukeduck's mid lane Echo. Looking at the summoner spells, it was the flash teleport, sorry. So that's, of course, helping him out. In actual fact, earning Nukeduck a CS advantage despite being flashless. Exile, on the other hand, he's opted to go for the flash heal. So looking to mitigate some of the burst damage instead of the cleanse, which is something we've seen a couple times into Elisa's, but normally a little more hard CC for that to be valuable.
Yeah, a couple of items we got to look at here as well as Joko's coming down to the bottom. It's Steelback. He's back in lane.
Vander gets the two-man play. Joko's looking for Samix, sinks the fangs in. Vitality trading damage back and forth. It's Steelback with the kill. Cocoon catches Hillesang and he gets a concussive blow down and is able to escape. Vitality sting first.
Yeah, Vitality able to get back to lane very quickly off the boot spy from Steelback. They're able to get the first kill.
And it's so important and something that Joko has done all split long. Joko was involved in 18 out of 19 first bloods for Vitality. First game on the stage, and he gets it again with the bottom lane.
This guy is trying to gun for Jankos' moniker. We'll see when they end up playing against H2K whether Joko maintains that. Jankos back on form as well, but Joko has gone from strength to strength. From a guy that subbed in for the Unicorns and people had a lot of questions outside of his rec side to now a seemingly more reliable jungler on Vitality. We're only 6 minutes into the first game for them with the split, but I think this kind of performance out of Joko, if you can keep it going, is what they can build off. Here comes the stealth in the top lane, not expecting this.
Steelback yells, surprise! As the charge goes down from Cabochard. Vizichachi takes a lot of damage. Flash forward with a bear trap on a rogue, but Vizichachi breaks the tether. And Vitality, they start the early lane swap. They get Chachi's flash.
We've seen this happen across other leagues. LCK have done this a few times where you get something down in the bottom lane and then swap up towards top, put pressure on the top lane. And look, now that Chachi had just hit 6, he can't really utilize that for a while now. Unicorns are pushing down in the bottom lane. Chachi can't really defend top on his own. There's 3 people from Vitality already up there pushing towards that tower, and already Vitality with a breath of life compared to their spring split team.
Yeah, great start to the game. We're in a race for tower first blood. I redact the statement. Vitality will get tower first blood. They are much further ahead. A tempo advantage of the initial play, and they're actually going to give the goal to Cabochard as well.
And now what they can do, if they can end up getting in 2 minutes time that Rift Herald and break mid lane as well, this is where a 1-3-1 composition can come alive, because typically you don't get that mid tower until a lot later into the game. Now if you have control through mid and through the jungle, that's where Joko can move from lane to lane, just assist where they need it.
And so can Steelback.
Yeah.
Throw down the ambush on that
exactly.
Twitch. The roaming death squad that Vitality can put together. All right, Nukeduck, he's gone in with a parallel convergence. Dragon still not secured. Samax will join. Exile and
TP's
Xerxes.
coming in.
Big fight breaking out. Infernal Drake is the objective. Joko, no smite available. He's in the pit. That's a 2-man stun. Vitality forced to repel up into the air, but they get the dragon as well.
Vitality getting objective after objective here. It's only a minor gold lead for them, but still, this is so much quicker, so much more involved than Spring's Vitality were, and it's all off the back of first Joko making the first set of plays in the game and then dragging their bottom lane up to the top side, bringing them down to Dragon. They're being very active on the map.
And I think it's very important that Vitality secure those objectives because they are still even in gold. Stress for a team that got first tower blood, first dragon, the CS differences that were in top and middle until a few seconds ago is what's keeping UOL relevant itemization-wise.
Chachi has had a little time to soak some farm up on the top side. He was a little ahead before the swap as well. That's where some of this gold disparity is being made up, but the same Xerxes has been farming up quite heavily himself. I want to see Unicorn's next move on this. Where do they stem the bleeding? I think they have to play a little bit around Rift Herald now because of that first tower cracking so quickly in favor of a 1-3-1 comp. I think you have to be a lot more aware of an on-spawn Rift Herald take, especially when it's an Elise, a champion that's very good at taking Rift Herald quickly. That's what I got to watch out for.
Yeah, and looking at the vision, not really a whole lot invested there yet. UOL obviously had a lot of dragon-based vision because they made that move for the Infernal a few minutes ago. We're getting closer to the 10-minute mark. The map slowly starting to open up. And we always talk about the setup of the 1-3-1. That's what Vitality want to do in order to activate it. And for UOL, with the likes of a Shen, they obviously want to try attack that setup, prevent it happening. And that requires having good vision and maybe sort of anticipating where Vitality go.
Yeah, Nuke did just use his TP, so it's a little more difficult to set up a 1-3-1 here. But this is all focused again at pushing mid lane back out, making sure Exile doesn't have the ability to look elsewhere, because Vitality, they're going to start up this Rift Herald, as we said, on spawn. This is what a composition with 1-3-1 is aiming to do. It is so much higher a priority than any kind of dragon, apart from Infernal, would be, and the Infernal Drake already dropped in this game.
Yeah, and of course you're gonna anticipate the Herald being dropped in the mid lane.
Yep.
Maybe trying to deal with Syndra's wave clear. A little bit of a slow response here, UOL. They've grouped up mid, moving into the river, but it's too late. Vander, a lot of respect with that flash early.
Yeah, and this is Unicorns actually preemptively responding to this. They push mid out and say, okay, we know you need to stack a wave to have the full effect from this. Because remember, Rift Herald will not break a tower from 100% of the way. You have to facilitate either damage first or damage alongside to crack the tower. And that's why Unicorns are saying, okay, it looks like an ARAM for now, but we need to make sure they cannot get a free mid tower from this Rift Herald.
Great reactive play. Unicorns marginally ahead in gold. They're still farming up a storm. Advantages in top, middle, jungle, and even a 10 CS advantage for Samux. And of course, dissuading the potential push. Look at the timer on that Rift Herald for Joko. A little over sort of minute 45 seconds left before he can activate and summon her to the lane.
One thing that may hurt Unicorns for a little while in this game, at least for the next 3 minutes where the Rift Herald item is in effect. If Samux and Exile are both sitting mid lane, where a Caitlyn wants to be and where a Syndra likes to be, you're sharing fun, you're sharing experience and getting further behind. So while they have leads right now, keep your eyes on Steelback, who's happily sitting out in the side lane, farming up, making sure they can keep on top of it, but Vander might be spotted.
Oh, flash from Hillisang. Remember, Vander, he got caught earlier. Death sentence is not going to be enough. And unfortunately for Vander, he goes down. Unicorns on the board.
This is the perfect way to neutralize any mid lane play, and of course now they've got to be careful that the Nuke Duck isn't just on his own. They've said, okay, just mid lane, yes, it's important, but let's just get any tower here. Let's unlock the bottom lane for Nuke Duck and Cabochard. Let's go down to the bot tower, but look, Samux and Hillisang and Xerxes are on their way down to the bottom lane to defend against this, but it might be all a ruse, because Vitality is still heading towards mid lane. All
right, Steelback bailed out of the lane. There's some support. Gigantic burst as the Rift Herald hammers down with the charge. Now, she will get killed. Steelback, surprise! He gets tagged, chunked, not killed, though. Out of mana from Exile. Stand United buys a few extra seconds. Nuke Duck has to run away, and Visit Chachi saves Exile.
Vitality try and throw everything and still trying to break this tower. You saw the ineffective Rift Herald in the bottom lane because Unicorns had retreated, and there's the strength of the Shen pick. The Vizichachi stamped his name into that MVP trophy from the spring split. It's easy to save Exile, and suddenly Unicorns really have taken a lot of the bite out of Vitality's composition for the next few minutes.
Yeah, 10 games played on Shen this year, 7 victories for Vizichachi, and an instantaneous shield once Exile flashed away. But crucial to note that flashes being down have been ganked this game. Early on, Xerxes attempted mid. It was unsuccessful. Vander being caught out. Maybe walking into someone. You can argue the semantics of that. But either way, it's the Unicorns that are just marginally ahead. And I just keep going back to, you got to give some kudos to the Unicorn squad. They lost first Tower, first Blood, first Dragon, but they're ahead in gold. And it feels like this comp can react very well to Vitality when they're not surprised.
And they have done. Putting everybody in mid lane, stopping any kind of play off Rift Herald, then moving towards the bottom lane to deny it again, then defending a play and now pushing on to mid. Vitality might start struggling with where their plays should go because 2, 3, 4 plays have now failed.
Yeah, and such a good charge there from Hillisang. Actually jumped over to a minion and blocked the Time Winder to allow the minions to just keep hammering away on the tower. Take a look up at the top lane. Black Cleaver has been finished for Cabochard. He's sitting in the Tiamat into Kim's Razor. Gets stun onto Nuke Duck. He's going to decide to go forward. Unleashed power from Exile. Wow! Thunderlords and Dark Sphere takes him down. Nukeduck didn't even use the ulti. Now Vander's in trouble. The Box and Flash are available. Neither are used. Unicorns get 2, and they get the tower as well.
He couldn't use it because it was 1 second away from being available. As his corpse fell to the floor, it came back off cooldown. Unicorns of Love finding the slightest of margins to punish Vitality, and now it's Unicorns taking down the first mid tower of the game when it's everything Vitality have been aiming for the last 5 minutes.
There's been so much talk about mid laners in Europe in the spring split, and Exile is one of the guys that just performed phenomenally. Look at this great start.
So looking at it the first time around, this is actually, the indicator is incorrect on the replay here for Echo. It was 1 second away from being available. Nukeduck undoubtedly would have hit it if he could, but Exile getting that sphere just underneath Echo, taking down the kill.
And that just means UOL stamp control on the game, Stress. They get that outer turret while we were in the replay. Looks like they're going to secure this dragon here as well. Vitality will arrive in a moment or two. Hilly may need to yell, stand behind me. He does. Gets behind Zexy and easily escapes. And that just means Unicorns, they take charge. You know,
yep.
they've got the lead, they've got the items, and Exile, he set up the picks.
This has been an interesting game where we've seen strengths and weaknesses from both teams. Where we saw Unicorns maybe not quite prepared for the bottom lane setup with the Twitch, with the Thresh, then Vitality moving towards the top side, but then they've kind of run aground. Is probably the best way of putting it. Everything they've tried hasn't been as successful as they'd planned, so now this should be an easy take on the bottom tower. They'll be able to defend the top side as well as Nukeduck's heading up there with his TP, and this is where double TP can start to take over. Unicorns, they can only bring Shen across the map. They can't bring Samix's Caitlyn, and this is where they can start to really pressure towers.
Oh, look at that! Oh. Joko, goodbye!
I was watching to see whether Chachi was flashed off after the taunt, but just Joko too close, didn't have a chance to repel, didn't have his flash available. You talked about flashes being punished when they weren't there. Joko gets punished for treading too far to the tower. They should have just taken the one tower and been done with it.
That is why Chachi got MVP and why Zexy was rookie of the split. The combo, man. The combo. Oh, they just made that look, they're just good. Like, no hesitation. Insta-gib under the tower. A little bit of maybe disrespect from Vitality, going very far forward with limited vision. But I want to praise the play from UOL. No hesitation and just great communication, which is something they did exceptionally well all split long.
Yeah.
The team, when they went in together.
They were always there together as a team. And that's another interesting thing with another split to have more experience. They've already got the second most championship points you can get. They surely are chomping at the bit to get to Worlds. This is a team that I think actually could do very well against a number of internationals. They will, of course, be playing, I believe, some others. Oh, hang on, Xerxes going in.
Yeah, exactly. Nukeduck's going to be forced to flash. A lot of threat in the tower. Look at the ring of vision in the top quadrant. Unicorns making it very clear they can play around that tower very safely. And I'm going to go back to what you said a few seconds ago. Second place, most championship points, same team, Korean Bootcamp. This is the best Unicorns of Love we've ever seen.
Yeah.
You know, they've made playoffs every single split. They've made finals twice. And they've kept the roster only for the second time ever between splits, which is a big deal for a team that has kind of been plagued, you know, losing some players, some unlucky situations, some visa, etc. And there's very, very high hopes for the Love Hurts crew here and everybody who is a Unicorns fan online.
What a fine Xerxes was as a jungler. I mean, a lot of people, obviously, he came from the TCL. A lot of people didn't really rate him as a jungler, and comes out and does a fantastic job. And it's really showed up one of the biggest problems Unicorns have had over a long period of time, that they've fixed now a consistent jungler who genuinely looks to be one of the best junglers that Europe has.
Yeah, reliable performer, deep champion pool. After some experimentation, struggled a little bit throughout the course of the early weeks of the split. And as we get to 20 minutes, Stress, it's a 2,000 lead for UOL. They've now stamped control on the map. And you mentioned some of the rosters, and we talked about UOL over time. Joko and Steelback once wore the pink, proudly. Yeah. Not exactly a revenge game.
No.
Death sentence goes down. This is a pretty tanky Vizichachi who gets the Stand United out, and quite easily escape. So Vander uses the box for that one. A little bit of an optimistic attempt.
I think there's one thing to say. I don't think a player's ever left the Unicorns with any malice. I don't think we've ever heard any behind-the-scenes stuff. So certainly, as you said, not a revenge game for them, but an interesting story nonetheless is Cabochard is going to get stunned up. Nukeduck may not be able to react in time.
That means retreat! But Cabochard can't retreat. He gets blown up. The man on your screen, Yamato Cannon, definitely helping Vitality in the early game, giving them a breath of life. But now Vitality showing some weaknesses against a very veteran, battle-scarred Unicorns of Love squad.
And this is becoming reminiscent. If I remember, it was an H2K versus Splice playoff series. I know that doesn't seem too relevant, but Splice playing 1-3-1 under Yamato Cannon couldn't break mid-tower for 30 minutes of the game, and their composition fell apart, and it feels like the same weakness for Vitality here. They tried, they overextended, played into the Unicorns' hands, and now they don't have the room on the map to play this composition out.
Yeah, and of course, you know, you have to give some props to the Unicorns. Once that Rift Herald went down, they instantly responded and went, oh, I know what to do. This is where you ARAM mid, guys. Samux is going to get out of range of Nukeduck's convergence, and then no real threat. And now all of a sudden it's UOL setting up what looks like a 4-1.
They have a cut right in towards mid lane that they can push down towards this next inner tower, and Vitality can't react in time. Twitch has been out on the side lane trying to play with a 3-person stack out there. However, Hook does land.
But it catches Visit Chachi. That's not who you want. Unicorn definitely enthusiastic backstage.
That thing looks evil.
Sheepy's trying so hard to be serious, and he's like, Romar, come on.
Like, we are playing an EU LCS game right now. This is serious business. But Unicorns are looking fantastic. We talked about their preparation coming into the split. We've talked about how they've stayed together. Looking at Vitality on the other side, I guess the question is, how much are people expecting them to contend with the second-place European team? Because I think to some extent that what we saw in the early game is actually commendable out of Vitality, and I think against other teams this might have been a lot more successful that didn't know to defend mid-tower with everything. I think teams, maybe the performance we saw out of Rocket in the previous game, may have crumbled at that strategy.
I agree, and I also think it is week one. Each team's played one series so far. We absolutely love to make sweeping statements. I know I do. I'm particularly well known for my sweeping statements. But I will have tempered expectations. Because, of course, Vander's going to catch out Xerxes. Xerxes with that frozen heart, very tanky right now. Vitality still unable to find a kill. And Samux is untouched. Vander goes down, Chrono Break, simply not enough damage. Samux with the red buff, and the ace in the hole not even needed. That's a double kill for UOL's AD carry.
The Unicorns team fighting looks as clean as ever. Vitality throwing everything at the engage, trying to get right into the mix. And you know, cool, calm, collected. Chachi comes in with the stand united on Xerxes. Unicorns take out 2. Now they're looking for Baron. Stun lands.
Look at this. Unleashed power not even necessary. Exile takes down Steelback with just the combos. Force of Will once more. Gets Scatter the Weak out, and Joko's down. Exile with a double kill delayed ace on Vitality.
He's starting off summer as he means to go on. He had some of the highest kills per game of a player in any league in Spring Split, and Exile already 5 on the board. This guy is a machine. As Unicorns of Love with a good turnaround here. It looked like Xerxes was caught, and maybe they couldn't take it. But remember, the Shen ult comes through instantly on teams. Hylissang, excuse me, and then they keep Hylissang alive. Cabochard runs into the fight, tries to escape. Nukeduck can't even get the kill with a Chrono Break, and from there, it's an easy double kill for Samux on this Caitlyn. How comfortable is this guy when he's given the Sheriff a Piltover?
Oh man, it helps when you've got a Gragas, a Shen, and a Braum to soak everything up, but that's the team. You know, they've built around Samux, who is arguably a defensive laner, but he's definitely a great team fighter. And Unicorns have leaned on Samux throughout the year, and he has not faltered. He's not buckled under the pressure, and just Unicorns, look, they were the favorites this matchup. You know, they are playing well. They are, you know, expected to do this, and just they didn't stress. It hasn't felt like they were scared at all, despite Vitality getting some early advantages.
This is what you would expect a team that invested in a boot camp to look like. We saw it out of Fnatic yesterday as well, looking very clean, very crisp, prepared for the split. And you can see the teams that seemingly have invested in this growth in between spring and summer split legitimately look prepared, legitimately look like contenders in their group. And as you said, Unicorns were expected even before we saw them look out of the boot camp, but this is looking good.
Yeah, it really is. Only one death on the Unicorn side. It is Samux from early in the game. I am hoping Xerxes dies a little bit more on a personal level, because Vedius has him in his fantasy team. And I need to win this week. I'm taking fantasy quite seriously. I've not won, ever. So, Exile needs to kill everyone.
Not even that time when you drafted all TSM players?
No, that didn't work as well as I'd hoped, actually.
Surprise! Should have stuck with Europe at that point.
Exactly. Unicorns of Love are going to take down their 5th tower of the game with the help of Baron buff. Still a minute 20. Visit Chachi.
Chachi doesn't care.
He's straight up
He
ignoring.
really doesn't care at this point, pushing with Baron buff. Kabosha gave up. He actually gave up. But I want to look at how Vitality's composition can actually play from behind, and it's very difficult. You look at a Thresh support when playing from behind, you basically have to catch somebody, flash hook them, try and outplay, and that's why what Vanda's kind of been trying to do, but it's so tough to actually play from behind against a team fighting composition for a team fighting team that have done it very well.
I am glad you mentioned that, though, because yes, it is a gigantic advantage. However, there's only 2 damage sources on the side of UOL, so if Nukeduck and Vanda can somehow find a target, it'll buy them time. There's a Chachi, got himself that Goggles stone plate, so good luck killing him anymore. Definitely going to be able to jump on the front line and steal back. Only 2 items to his name. Hurricane and Blade of the Rune King going up against iEdge, Zeal, Hurricane, and QSS for Samux. So pretty significant difference when it comes to itemization.
It is, of course, Caitlyn. Everybody talks about being 4 items. Well, if you're ahead of the enemy AD carry, generally, a lot of the time, you'll be doing well, but in the sense of team fights. But Exile himself is perhaps the more vulnerable one, as I say, that Samux gets jumped on.
Exactly. Look at the damage, but there's no support for Nukeduck. Exile is dominating.
Comes in, sweeps up the kill, says, Samux, you got jumped on, doesn't matter.
Get me them juicy fantasy points. Anyways, Exile and the rest of Unicorns, they've got no more Baron, but they don't even need it. Stand United and teleport still up for Chachi in his bottom lane.
Chachi didn't even ult, and his AD carry got jumped on by an AP Echo with Lichbane. That's how cool these guys are playing out all of these team fights.
The base has been broken open. Visit Chachi's bringing the conga line up in bottom lane. The rest of Unicorns of Love gonna take down the inhibitor to some golf claps here in Berlin. And
this looks clinical.
Just an easy move over. This is just great, you know. It is beautiful to see a team win ahead so easily close it out. Vanda's gonna get popped down. Unleash power, not enough to get the take it back. Xerxes gets the kill. Now Xerxes running for his life as he's being chunked down by Steelback. Cocoon connects from Joko, but not a lot of damage. Exile is godlike. That's his 7th of the game. Continues to move forward. Steelback forced to flash. Inhibitor number 2 is the target. Parallel convergence could cut off the retreat path. The Nukeduck can't follow it in. The taunt connects. The Nukeduck's down.
Again, Unicorns with another clean skirmish. Only 1 death in the entire game. Vitality came with good strategy in the early game. Good basis on a 1-3-1, but they didn't quite execute. The Unicorns punished them very hard.
13 kills for the team. 11 of them have been involved with Exile. It's a stun onto Steelback, and the Nexus is destroyed. Unicorns pick up a couple extra kills under Joko. Samux on a killing spree. They're not done yet. Exile is legendary. 9 kills, and Unicorns outclass Vitality in Game 1 of Summer. For what it's worth, Exile did not get the 10th kill. There are bonus points for the 10th kill.
People are already going to be saying, I hope Quickshot doesn't talk about